Mark, a hard-working taxi driver struggling to make ends meet, meets a desperate woman late at night. She is crying, holding her small child, and desperately needs a ride. Sensing her distress, Mark drives her home and refuses to accept payment, recognizing that she is going through a difficult time. Little does Mark know that his small act will soon change his life in ways he never imagined. Just a few hours later, his phone rings with news that will take him by surprise. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Story to Heal. Today I am excited to share a new story with you. As Mark lay in bed that night, his thoughts were constantly on the woman and her child. It was rare for him to refuse payment, as he needed every ounce of income he could get. But there was something different about the woman's situation. Mark wondered what had put her in such a state, why she was so upset. But he knew he would probably never find out. As he drifted off to sleep, his cell phone vibrated on his nightstand. It was unusual for him to receive a call so late at night, and for a moment Mark hesitated, but something compelled him to answer. On the other end of the line was an unfamiliar voice, calm but urgent. "Is this Mark, the taxi driver?" the voice asked. Confused, Mark confirmed that he was. The caller explained that he was calling on behalf of the woman he had driven home last night. Mark's heart was pounding. Had something happened to her? "She's safe, but there's something important we need to discuss," the man continued. "She didn't want to tell us her story before, but she told us what you did for her. It's something she'll never forget." Mark sat up in bed, wide awake now. His head was spinning. What could this mean? The man explained that the woman he had helped came from a very wealthy family, but had been estranged from them for years due to a personal tragedy. She had struggled to get through life without their support. Her journey had been filled with hardship, and that night she had hit rock bottom. She was going through one of the hardest times of her life, the caller said, and you, Mark, showed her kindness when she needed it most. Mark's head was spinning. He had only done what he thought was right, but why was he being told this now? Before he could ask more, the man paused, then delivered some unexpected news. The woman's family had learned of his actions and wanted to meet with him. Mark's head was spinning. He didn't understand why this family wanted to see him. After all, he had only refused to pay for a ride. But something told him there was more to the story. The man on the phone gave him an address and asked if he could meet them the next day. Mark hesitated, not knowing what to expect, but eventually his curiosity overcame his doubts. The next morning, Mark found himself standing in front of a large house, the kind he had only seen from the outside when dropping off passengers in the wealthier parts of the city. He had never imagined that he would enter such a house. Nervously, he rang the doorbell. Within seconds, the door swung open and he was greeted by an older man in a suit. His voice sounded familiar. It was the voice from the phone call the night before. "Mark, thanks for coming," the man said with a warm smile. He introduced himself as John, a close family friend. As Mark followed her inside, he couldn't help but notice the expensive artwork on the walls, the polished floors. Everything about the house smacked of luxury. They entered a large living room where the woman from the night before was waiting. She looked much calmer now, her face no longer streaked with sadness like the night before. She stood as Mark approached, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Mark, I don't know how to thank you," she began. "Last night, I was at the lowest point of my life. I didn't know how I was going to get through it, and then you came along. You didn't ask for anything in return. You just helped me. I don't know many people who would do that." Mark felt uncomfortable. He wasn't used to getting so much attention for what he considered a small act. But before he could answer, John spoke. "There's something you need to know, Mark. This family has been through a lot, and even though they're wealthy, they've had their own tragedies. When you helped them last night, you did more than you realize. You reminded us that there are still good people out there." Mark listened, still not sure where this was going. But then John delivered a piece of news that made him pause. John paused for a moment, as if trying to find the right words. Then he said, "The family you helped is not only wealthy, they are very influential. They own several businesses in this town, but they have always believed in using their wealth to help others, to give back to those who show them kindness without expecting anything in return. Mark was confused. He had never expected anything in return for what he did. It was just a moment of compassion. But John continued, "They have decided that your act of kindness should not go unnoticed. They want to offer you an opportunity that will change your life." Mark's heart skipped a beat. Change your life? What did they mean? He had never imagined that a small act could lead to something so significant. He listened intently as John explained that the family had decided to give him a financial gift, enough to pay off all his debts and secure his future. But it wasn't just money. They were also offering him a position in one of their businesses, a chance to have a stable job with a good income and the potential for growth. Mark was stunned. It was as if all the struggles he had faced had suddenly been lifted. He had spent years working long hours just to survive, and now, in one moment, his entire life had changed. The woman stood up and walked toward him. "You didn't know it then, but you gave me hope that night. I felt like I had lost everything, but your kindness reminded me that there are still good people in this world. This is our way of saying thank you." Mark felt tongue-tied, not knowing what to say. All his life he had believed that kindness was its own reward, without expecting anything in return. But now he was faced with something far beyond his expectations and imagination. He began to realize that sometimes small acts of kindness, done sincerely, could have a huge impact, not only on others, but on himself as well. The days that followed became a new chapter in Mark's life. He began working in the family business with renewed enthusiasm. Although it was difficult and challenging at first, he quickly adapted. Gradually, he found himself enjoying the work in a way he had never imagined. For the first time in years of struggling with the pressures of life, he felt free from the shadow of financial problems that had held him back. More than a paycheck or a steady job, there was something much more meaningful to Mark. He felt a priceless peace of mind knowing that the small act of kindness he'd done had a big impact on someone's life. The woman he helped and her family not only showed their gratitude, but also stayed close to him. Over time, their relationship grew. They were no longer just business partners, but friends who supported each other. One evening, as Mark sat in his modest living room, he reflected on all that had recently happened in his life. He realized a profound life lesson. Although life had given him many trials, he had never let them erode his compassion and desire to help others. And now he sees for himself how that compassion has returned to him in ways he never expected. The ripples of kindness, as he calls them, are real. Small acts of kindness can change your life in ways you never imagined. Mark's journey is living proof that kindness always has a way of returning, bringing unexpected miracles. He smiles, feels grateful, and is determined to continue living his life with a heart full of kindness. Like this story? Click like and subscribe for more stories, and share your thoughts with a word in the comment section.